Hello, Lionesses. Welcome to Unstoppable Lionesses. I am your host, Dr. Cornette James. You know, I am always thrilled to be able to come and to share with you, to help build you up, to help propel you into your next. But I'm like over the top excited tonight because of my guest that I have that is joining us, Miss Robin Turner. Robin is a therapist, a clinical therapist, very, very skilled in what she does. And for most of you that know about Lioness Warrior Kingdom and you know our platform, it's built on helping women heal from past abuses, be it societal, be it emotional, be it physical, different things that we as women have gone through in life, even some of us from little girls, from molestation and different things, from being told we weren't pretty enough, we weren't smart enough, being put in the corner, telling to be seen and not heard, and just all these different things that build up over the years. And so, because our platform is built on helping to heal from those things, I am really, really excited to be able to kind of do a little deep dive into some of those issues tonight, and to also give you ladies, your lionesses, some tools to help you in your journey of healing. So, Robin, what's going on with you, girl?
And I'm excited that you would have me on. It is an honor. This is a topic that's absolutely near and dear to my heart, trauma, especially childhood trauma. I think it is a topic that is not discussed enough, but yet we have women all over the world who've experienced some form of childhood trauma. And then today we have some youth that are still experiencing some of the same traumas we've experienced in our childhood. So I'm excited to have this dialogue with you. I definitely believe it's going to help some people out there and just to keep the conversation going.
Yes, ma'am. So, what drew you to trauma?
Let me clear one thing up too. I have to do it for my clinical. I am a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist state intern. I have to say that. I still have to pass the exam. So they want you clearing up your certification. So but I've been practicing for over 20 years.
Oh,
Um
that's a long time. Hey, you clinical in my book.
yes, yes, yes. So you said what drew me
What
to
drew you to the trauma arena of therapy?
it's personal for me. As an 8-year-old girl, I experienced sexual abuse, sexual molestation. My mother would have a family member babysit me as someone that she trusted, and an older cousin would touch me inappropriately, and I'm gonna be straightforward, there was penetration at a young age. So once you've experienced something like that and you go through the process and you understand how trauma impacts you, then for me, at some point, I believe it was God too saying, there's something you have to do. There's something you play a part in healing somebody else. But I'm also passionate about prevention.
Hmm.
Um, for me being 8 years old and experiencing this, and then I'm currently working in schools where young girls are still experiencing the same level of trauma, then for me it's like, okay, you have to do your part. It's an assignment, it's a calling. It's not just about you.
Hmm. Did you tell anybody when you were experiencing this as a child?
Did not. And oftentimes, people don't. We don't, especially when it is a family member.
Mhm.
I tell parents, I tell mentors, family members all the time, a child may not tell, especially if it's somebody that's close to the family. Because oftentimes the thought is protection of the family,
Mhm.
protection of even the perpetrator. So for me, it was protection of my mother because I knew like this is someone she's entrusting to keep me. This is someone she's entrusting to keep eyes on me. And this happened. What is this going to do to their relationship? And that was my
At
thought.
8 years old, at 8 years old, you're thinking this.
I was thinking this, what is this going to do to their relationship? Because this woman is like my mom's sister, mother, auntie. Their relationship was really close. And I'll be honest too, I don't believe the family member thought anything would happen. Matter of fact, my mom used to work graveyard. And so I used to go over in the middle of the night. And so just to go to sleep, she'd be like, go upstairs, get into bed with your cousin. And I do believe that the cousin that she told me to get into bed with is the one she thought, okay, he wouldn't do anything. You would think that, not taking into consideration that I'm a young girl still. And I think he at the time was 16, 17, 18. I don't remember the exact age, between 16 and 18, somewhere around there. And it just started off as inappropriate touching at first. And then it went to full penetration. So again, I don't think it was oh, he gonna do something to her. I think it was he's gonna be the one that doesn't, because he also had a brother. So in her defense too, I don't believe she thought that would be the issue. Who believes my son or my child is going to inappropriately touch or do something to a kid? That's not the first thing that comes to your mind. So what it speaks to is it doesn't matter who it is. We don't want to be out there accusing people, but we also want to be mindful of a young boy and a girl, and
Right.
boys are curious,
And
and they're
especially in that age gap, like that's puberty and hormones are raging. And yeah, that's something to be mindful of.
absolutely. And to consider that a little girl shouldn't be up there with a teenage boy.
No, that's what
But
I'm saying. No.
But again, you're thinking that my child wouldn't be, and that's a hard thing to consider, right? Do I need to consider that with my child? And I don't think it's, um, again, I don't know, what happened to him, but I definitely feel like it just started off with inappropriateness and then it went on to
Did
some.
you ever tell your mother, like as you got grown or older?
So eventually, as an adult, I did. As an adult, I did. Again, I was still wanting to protect her. I think the first person that I actually told was someone I was dating, my first boyfriend. I think I was about 16. He was the first person that I opened up and shared, okay, this happened to me.
Mm.
Um, and I think I shared it with him because there was a safety in our relationship. Him and I grew up together. So he was the first person, and it was freeing even telling him.
And
After
did he respect the sacredness of you confiding in him?
did. He did. And again, I think it goes back to, even though he was young, again, probably we were 16, 17. But I think because we grew up together, we had a friendship first,
Okay.
um, that there was love and there was respect. So he honored the secret, and respected me. He respected me. But after telling him, it made me feel comfortable. I shared with a cousin, I shared with a friend. It made me start to open up and to start sharing with other people, which was,
How healing was that for you to be able to actually share it?
I think it was huge for me. Not even that it was just sharing it, but someone that respected me and was safe. I think oh, you hear me, you respect me, and you kept my secret safe. I'm safe with you. So
Mhm.
when you experience all of that, that is the beginning of your healing journey. I was able to share it, and there was love, there was compassion for what I was sharing. Oftentimes, I've heard women who share with me in sessions say, but I wasn't believed. I did say something. And it was like, girl, sit down. That didn't
And that's
happen.
double trauma.
That's the beginning of your complex trauma. Absolutely. Because the first thing is it happened. And now the person that I'm sharing it with, who's I'm supposed to feel safe with, it's usually a family member, someone they trust. And you're telling me you don't believe me. Well, now, yes, that's another level of trauma that I have to experience or deal with. And that's why a lot of women don't go further in sharing or doing anything about the experience because of the traumatic. Well, I did tell somebody, I ain't do nothing.
Mhm. How
Mhm.
did your mother react when you finally opened up?
So God is so amazing because I never thought I would tell. I'm gonna protect her. I'm never telling because I don't know how this is gonna impact her. And a friend of mine reached out and she was like, I want you to be a part of a book that I'm writing. And I want you to share what you've been through. And it was like, oh Lord, if I do this, I could hear the Holy Spirit like, you can't go do that and
And
not
that's
10.
a new mom.
The ball's
Yeah.
not order, right? And I think it was also a nudging from God, like the beginning of me understanding that this would be a part of my ministry, that this would be a part of something he's calling me to do. I begin to understand, oh Lord, you calling me to something greater with this, because now you're making me, you're nudging me, you're putting me out there. So when I finally told her, I just prayed actually about it. I said, Lord, if you want me to tell her, then you're going to have to give me the right moment, give me the right time, set it up where she's okay and I'm okay. And I remember us being at home one day in a particular moment, and I said, I got something to tell you. And I gave the disclaimer, and I said, but I want you to know I'm okay.
Mm.
It's okay.
That was important. Yeah.
Yeah, it was important for me, but I want you to know that I'm okay. And I want you to be okay. And I shared with her what happened. And what I love, I don't know if she did this. I don't even know if my mom knew what she was doing, but in the moment, she was very present for my emotions.
Mm.
It wasn't about her and her breaking down. And what I needed, she gave. I don't, by the grace of God, what I needed, she gave. She was present. Um, she wasn't overly emotional. She gave space for me to just share it and then say, do you have any questions? She didn't ask a lot of questions, maybe because I was an adult at the time. She did say, how come you didn't tell me? And I did share with her because out of concern and protection for you, because I knew the relationship. And she was just present with me in that moment. And I think that was the best response. I don't know if she went and cried later. I don't know if she had a moment later. I'm sure she did, but she was exactly what I needed in that moment, was for her to just be present for my emotions.
That's really, really important. I think because there's that double-sided coin, and I believe that some of our lionesses experience the trauma of it, but there may be some lionesses that their daughter or their niece or someone close to them has experienced it and may see them as a safe place. And I think that it's really important. What you said was that she was there for your emotions.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, that's a really important factor.
it is, because I've said, as well as sharing my trauma with my mother, I've sat in sessions where I've had to prepare a parent to hear it from their child.
Mm.
And what I usually do is prepare the child first. Okay, let's talk about it. We usually role play and they're working and processing with me. And then I individually work with the parent. And I usually tell the parent, what you don't want to do is begin to be overly emotional. I know you're angry. I know you're frustrated. Be that with me. Express it with me. If it's other family members or if it's a couple, do it with each other. But what the child is going to need is for you to be fully present for their feelings, their emotions, to connect with them. Because what you don't want to do is allow or make them feel like, I shouldn't have said anything,
Yeah.
because now they're angry, they're ready to hurt somebody. Oh, they're overly, they're emotional, they're breaking down. Now I'm dealing with my emotions and your emotions at the same time. So again, I'm not saying it's not okay to have those feelings, but you want to make sure that you can you hold for a little bit so that you give them the space to feel, connect. And even if there's some crying, I always tell the parents, just don't go overboard, because what it does is, for a child who initially is telling, it can cause them to go back introverted, to go back inward, versus saying, because oftentimes we want to protect our family members. And
Absolutely.
you want to protect your emotions, your feelings. And so as soon as we start to see those, that range of emotions, again, I'm going back, I'm ready to retreat. See, I shouldn't have said anything. So
I I experienced an incident at 9. I was a year older than you, but I was 9 years old and I was molested by my uncle, my aunt's husband. And I didn't tell because my mother was on the crazy side. And I felt that she was all I had. And if I told her, she would kill him. And then I had nobody.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I never told her. She passed away when I was 27, and I never told her. And basically, so I understand where you're coming from that healing perspective. Thanks be unto God, this man and my aunt divorced probably about a year later because he was molesting her daughter. And he asked me, this is the words he said to me, Denise will let me do it. You want to see? And I was like, no. And see, I was so I've always been this personality, this fighter personality, and I fought at 9. And thank you, Lord, because he did not have the opportunity to penetrate. He tried, but he couldn't. I was a swimmer. I had really strong legs. I fought. But it's like things happen like that in a twinkling of an eye. One minute we're at my house at a barbecue, and the next moment he's saying he needs to run home to get something and asking me and my cousin, do we want to ride? And like, you kids, and you know, um, and my cousin unfortunately had some mental challenges. So she, you know what I'm saying? She wasn't really on that same wavelength, but I never told. And from that same perspective of protection, you know, I do I do remember when my aunt finally left him because he was abusive to her as well. And she came to our house because everybody knew my mother was crazy and was pistol packing Annie. So she felt she
I
felt she would be safe at my house. And I never forget he came over beating on the door. And my mother was at work, and literally my aunt and my cousin hid in my closet. That's how fearful they were of this man. I went in the kitchen and got a rolling pin and dared him to come through that door because I got something for you. I'm so serious.
just at 9 years old. Lioness at 9.
At 9, girl, at 9.
Come
And
from.
but you had to know my mother and my upbringing, and it was just like, hey, it was like there was never a fair fight. This was her words. Oh, nobody hit you out of love but me. So it
Oh,
was no
like, she said
as a
so.
fair fight. And because she had been abused for the majority of her life before she married my father.
Yeah.
And so she had two abusive marriages before my father. She grew up in an abusive home with her father abusing her mother until she fought her father at 14. And that's when her mother decided, oh, well, I better go because now my husband's going after his daughter. So it's like it's where you come from and what's instilled in you. But what that did to me is made me overly protective of mine.
Yes.
Okay. Because, like I said, it was just that quick. And to know that, and it was just like, I trusted no one. No, you can't go spend the night over nobody's house. You know what I'm saying? Just no, you better not be sat there talking to some man and you a child. You don't have nothing to say to a man. You know what I'm saying? It was that kind of trauma that came out of me, that overprotectiveness of my child.
Did you ever share with your child?
Hmm.
Did you?
I did. I explained to her why I was the way I was,
Yeah.
and why I felt the way I felt, because I wanted to make sure. See, I guess because part of my upbringing was my mother trying to prepare me and making sure that I could protect myself against anything, and that was embedded in me, and so I did likewise for my child. Now my mother shared some things of her trauma and her upbringing. I know I don't know it all. I don't know the whole story because hers was deep.
Yeah.
And I was the recipient of some of the outrage from what she experienced from being growing up in that old school mentality, you don't tell kind of thing.
So what's
Uh,
happening? Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
my mother was born in 1913,
And
so
that
like,
generation, you don't tell.
don't tell.
Don't tell. You hold it, but I'm gonna teach you how to fight. You will know how to fight and take care of yourself. Absolutely. That's the same thing I did with my daughter as well. I shared with her, told her, and it's so crazy. I shared with her before I even told my mother, right? But I did share with her what happened and the why that I was the way that I was, why there are certain people house you can't go over there.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Not because, I don't love you or nothing with them, but because
And not
of
because I don't trust you. I don't trust people.
exactly. Exactly.
That's what it left me with. I don't trust people.
Yep.
and especially not with mine.
And here's the statistically, it is facts that I think it's about 75-80% of it, abuse or sexual abuse happens from someone that you know, whether it be a friend or family. It's usually someone that you know. So it's always usually someone close that knows the family dynamic. So, I mean, I hear you. You have to protect and set boundaries within your household. I tell parents all the time, do not be afraid to say no. I'm sorry, love you, but they can't come over there. Growing up, my daughter had an aunt on her dad's side. I said, I love you, and I'm gonna tell you because I love you. We live two different lifestyles. My daughter cannot come over here without me. She cannot because the life is too different. And I do love you, but
And
she
that
can't.
protective instinct. That's what you said a few minutes ago. I have been a lioness all my life, and that protectiveness of my cubs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is just in me.
Yep.
It is just in me. So let me ask you, because I know that there are some women out there that have experienced like experiences, but have never had the opportunity to heal properly. What are some of the triggers or telltale stories that or that they can see to let them know that they have unresolved trauma still within them that still needs to be healed? They may be grown women, they may have children, grandchildren, or whatever, but they've never properly healed from what they've experienced.
The telltale sign is always going to show up in your relationships to people, and that is, I don't trust you.
Mm,
Guarded. I only let you in. I want this relationship, and I always give the example, come close, but then you stonewall. So I'm telling you to come here. I really want you close, but then immediately my hand goes out. You're close enough. So,
yeah.
and there's a struggle to be vulnerable.
Mm,
Vulnerability means I can tell you, even like us just sitting here having this authentic conversation, for someone
mhm.
that's still dealing, that may be too much. Oh,
Yeah.
no, 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 I can't talk about, or I'm only willing to share certain aspects of myself, even with the people that are close to me, that I love. I'm not willing to be fully vulnerable, transparent, have a hard time being honest or even being your authentic self, struggling in relationships to trust or control. Sometimes it's in your trauma, you want to control the dynamic because you
Mm,
feel like I've lost control. So
mhm,
now I need to have control of
mhm.
situations. That's one of the things, even when I was going to therapy, me and my therapist would talk about, like, how do I get rid of, I can see some of my controlling things coming up because that's what keeps you safe. If I can control the dynamic of this relationship, this environment, I feel safe. And when you are in relationships, you have to release some of that control for vulnerability, right? In order for them to come in and get to know you, um, and experience you in the fullness of who you are, but you're pretty guarded. So people can't really see the wholeness and the fullness of you. And you kind of keep certain aspects of yourself hidden. That's how that shows up. Fear. Um, you know, Even with your child, we can become overly protective,
True.
and that can be very harmful too. So now my child is trying to build relationships. I'm overly protective, and they feel like I'm locked up. Mama, what's I'm helicopter mom. Who is that? Where you going? Which you should be that way. But
Right.
also our job is to teach them how to live in the world without us, right? Because sometimes we're not going to always be there. So if
Mhm.
I've always shielded you, protected you,
You
now
don't
you
know.
don't know how to navigate the
Right.
trials and relationship or challenges in relationship because I've always stepped in and done the work for you. Again, controlled things. So you'll see it in a lot of trying to control the dynamics of relationships. You'll see it in struggling to be vulnerable, pushing people away where you may really want them close. Intimacy in your intimate relationships, there may be some struggles there, and you're not being fully honest about the whys, or you're still having a hard time saying, this actually happened to me. And a lot of our older, we talk about our parents and how they grew up, they'll be like, I don't want to talk about that. Why are we going back to something that's old? I don't want to.
So that's in the past. Leave it alone. Yeah.
but not knowing that another child, even an adult, sometimes needs to have that conversation for their healing journey. And sometimes I have to teach, in my sessions, how to move past if that family member, if that mother, if that auntie, if that grandmother never wants to go there with you, how you can still move forward in your healing process. A lot of people like, I need them to know what they made me feel. And sometimes I have to say, but they may never, ever be what you need them to be. They may never, ever have the response that you feel like you need. But now the adult you has to love on and provide the support and the compassion, the empathy that the inner child you needed so much. And we call that inner child work, where you have to go back and identify, what did the little girl me, what did the little boy me need back there? That maybe for me a little bit, I had to come up, I had the mask on, the hard exterior. I got it all together because at 8 years old, I learned how to hide.
Mhm.
I learned how to mask so that nobody can know. And then that goes into even some of my adulthood, masking things versus saying, no, I can tell you, I can be transparent, I can have a voice,
Mhm.
get my voice back.
Mhm.
So that is a part of the healing process, being able to set boundaries too. For some, it could be my boundaries are rigid,
Mhm.
like I talked about, nobody gets in. And then for some, my boundaries can be very permissive, meaning I just go along, get along with anything to keep and hold on to people because of my pain, my trauma. Um, so now I'm very permissive in relationships. I give in. I give myself easily.
Mhm.
Um, yes, you can have me physically, intimately, you know, I, yep, because I rather give it away, which is a part of control, than for you to come and take it from me.
Mhm.
So that's the other side of that. I deal with a lot of girls and women who are very permissive sexually, go along, even if they don't want to, because I'd rather give it now because that's a sense of control for me, um, than to have you force yourself or take it or even lose you. So that's the other side of that, what can show up when you've experienced that level of trauma. For men too, a lot of men overly sexual. And if you start to have some real conversations with them, they will say, I've been sexually abused.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I've heard that. In fact, my apostle that I sit under when I'm in Atlanta has shared that very story, and that a babysitter molested him, female, wasn't even a male, it was a female babysitter, molested him, and it sparked something in him, and so he went to the deep end in that respect.
Pornography,
Um,
all kind of things begin to open.
mhm.
The scriptures don't waken the love before it's time. Well, when it's woken before it's time, that's when you can get into a lot of deceptive or um, inappropriate behaviors and things that you start to tap into.
Mhm. So for this is geared to women because the platform that we air on, and please, we're not shortchanging the men because they go through their own traumas and their own issues and whatever, but for the women, for our lionesses that have never went to try and get help for the trauma, especially if you are quote unquote a child of God, because the church will tell you all you need is Jesus,
Uh-huh. Yes,
and Jesus is good and Jesus delivers, but sometimes you need some help in this earth realm with a therapist. What is your message to them?
absolutely. And Jesus gives us one to another. So you still
Yes.
need someone. And I'll tell you, the most powerful thing in the healing process is when you have those safe connections.
Mm,
But I would say for someone that has not gotten help, but you identify, you can recognize, I see certain things show up in me,
mm,
then that says there's still some healing that needs to be done. And I recommend getting therapy, or even sometimes we think, okay, I got to go directly to therapy, right? Sometimes it could even just be, for me, my healing process, I can be honest and therapeutically say it really began when I was able to first tell that first person, this
Mm,
happened to me. And then he created, even him as a young boy, created a safe space to say, I believe you, gave me a hug, took care of me, my emotions. And he was young. Just because we grew up together, that was the beginning, because that first person and how he received me allowed me to start opening up to a cousin, a friend. And that began my journey. So sometimes it is just saying, hey, girlfriend, this happened to me. And me and my friend can start to talk, and we can have authentic and real, and I can take my mask off and I can start to be vulnerable in the conversation with someone and begin to share those things that you've been holding internally. That can be the beginning. But also clinically, it's good to get some professional help, because some things that you're like, what is that? Why does that happen? Even some, I still see a therapist. Sometimes I'm like, wait, what a minute, is that still there? What is that? Because things can easily trigger those past emotions, those past hurts. And you're like, why am I doing that? Why am I feeling that? And just to get some balance, right? Someone say, okay, that's showing up for you. Here's a coping skill. Oh, okay. Or those emotions, I need to go ahead and process those emotions. You know what? I think there's some residue, or this person triggers that for me, you know, um, until there's that complete healing. And you'll know when there's complete healing because it's not hard to have the conversation. I'm able to use my voice in setting healthy boundaries, but also I'm able to allow people in my life to genuinely to love me, support me, and that I trust. I can trust people versus saying I don't trust nobody. I don't trust nobody. Well, you got to trust somebody. And so now I can trust people, but I'm healthy enough to understand how to set appropriate boundaries and to know the adult me can protect the little girl me.
that's good.
The
I So one of the things that you said was that, when you shared your story, you shared it in a safe place, and the young man that you shared it with gave you validation. Talk to our ladies, our lionesses that out there that have devalued themselves because they're walking in that place of guilt. They feel like it was their fault, that what was done to them, and they've never healed from that. So, you spoke about being promiscuous, or you know what I'm saying, or some don't feel that they're worthy of love because they're tainted, they're dirty. You know what I'm saying? How do women deal with that inner healing from that perspective?
What I usually do is talk to women about going back and speaking to their inner child. You know, and inner child work is very powerful. You really explore and take the client back to what were the feelings, what was happening when they were that age. And then you say, now what did you need? And then you encourage them to say, now you, the adult you, now, what would you say to that child? Because now what I'm teaching you to do is to give yourself your own validation, which is empowering to you, your own self-worth. And then also it's kind of giving you your voice back. And the same compassion that you would give to someone else, you're going back to give to the little girl who didn't have the power, who didn't have the ability always to fight or to feel safe telling someone. Now you are creating that for yourself. That is the beginning of inner child work. So usually what I would say is, what would you say to somebody else who experienced what you experienced? How would you talk to them? How would you express empathy to someone else that experienced you? How would you empower and how would you invalidate? How would you validate someone else that has gone through what you've been through? What would you say? So now look at you, go back to the place that you experienced it, and now open your mouth and say, it was not your fault. Tell yourself that you are loved. Tell yourself that you are worthy. Give yourself compassion and grace. Give yourself to say, you know what? I was a child. I didn't deserve it. This was not my fault. They were the adult. A lot of times shame too and guilt, and I experienced a little of this too because your body betrays you, your
Mhm.
body, you give into some of the sexual encounters, right? Because your body, it's stimulated, your body is going to do what it does, right? So a lot of women struggle with even the shame and guilt of that, but I participated, or it does not matter. You were a child. That was an adult. There was manipulation. But what would you go back and say to the girl who experienced that? Say what you needed to hear. Give yourself some love and some grace. And when you do that, that begins to remove some of the shame and the guilt. And then I always encourage, what is and who is your safe space? Because for some women, if it's not the women or the people around you, this is why therapy, even as a Christian, therapy does not remove God. It
Right,
doesn't mean that somebody else is taking his place.
right.
God gives us one to another for the sharpening and the strengthening of each other.
Mm-hmm.
He even tells us, right? They will know you by your love, right?
Right.
Because he knows the hurt that we go through and we've experienced in this world. So
Mm-hmm.
when we can love one another through pain, through hurt, that's healing. So it isn't just, oh, but God, He's my source. He is. And He does the work for us. He does. But He will also say, I gave you your sister over there
Right,
who loves you. I
right.
gave, and your sister over there told you, hey, I see something ain't right. Friend, go to get some counseling. Why are you discounting, discrediting, denying me, even in a sense, when I'm giving you everything you need in the tangible? Because even when you go see that counselor, I love the Lord. I'm a woman of God. So when somebody sees me, they're seeing the God in me. So the
Mm-hmm.
Holy Spirit will begin to love, encourage through the power of the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That's God saying, that's me. They're loving on you too. I led Robin to you. I led Sister Colette to you. So God is the one that leads us in, the connections and the resources too. So
Mm-hmm.
just because we have God, He also knows we need sometimes those tangible, the tangible love, the tangible validation, the tangible words of encouragement in the present and in the moment. And
Mm-hmm.
that is him working as well. So when you go get counseling, yes, it's important to identify, what if you want a Christian counselor, fine. There we are out there. Say, you know what, for me, I still go to a counselor. It is important that I know somebody that is flowing, who understands therapy, but also understands the spiritual. So now when we talk, I'm getting the fullness, you know, and they can help me on both sides, because when you're hurting and you're in pain, please know that it's impacting where you are spiritually. Promise you. When there's some spiritual hold up, it's impacting you naturally. We're spirit and made of this flesh.
Right.
So you need both.
That's
So
right.
it does not, and I say that all the time, it does not say that you going to a therapist does not take God out of the equation. Matter of fact, he may be the one drawing you to pray about who to go to. Lord,
Right.
lead me to the place that is going to be safe for me, the person that I can open up to, that I can be vulnerable with. Because until you can be fully vulnerable, fully disclosed in a safe space, there's going to be some struggle in your journey to heal. It is. Because then the enemy can use the shame to shut you up. The
Mhm.
enemy can use the discouragement. The enemy can use, playing your self-esteem, your mind, your self-worth, because of your fear, because of your shame, because of those things. That's where the enemy can get in. So that's
Mhm.
why it has to be some vulnerability, some transparency. The God is a God of truth, some truth, so that you can come into the fullness of your healing. Yes.
You talk a lot about the inner child,
Mhm.
and it sounds like it's really, really important to connect with your inner child. I remember having a conversation with my husband probably a couple of years ago, and because we were at a service and it was some people talking about different trauma and how trauma can affect your memory
Yes.
of different time periods in your life. And when we left, we went and we were sitting up and having something to eat. And I said, I don't remember a large portion of my childhood.
Mhm.
And to me, my childhood ended when I was 7. That was when my father passed.
Mm.
And I felt he was my protector from my mother, just from whatever else was going on. But when he passed, I was no longer the little playful little girl that, because I was daddy's little girl, and my father was more, my mother worked long hours, just in fairness to her. She owned her own salon. So she was up at the crack of dawn, came home at midnight. So you know what I'm saying? She wasn't, and because of the hardship of the life that she lived, she was never that nurturing kind of mother. Now she had me prepared for the streets, but she wasn't a nurturer. And she became angry after my father passed because, what she said was that God took the best husband that she ever had. And so she began to drink a lot and she became very angry, and it was just me and her. And so I got the brunt of that anger. And so a lot of my childhood is a blur. And I remember going through training for the ministry at church, and we had to serve in every aspect of the ministry so that we understood all of it as we were training. And when it came to children's church, I was like, "This ain't my stick." This ain't
It ain't
my
that it. Well, you didn't get to be a child. You
I
had to grow.
didn't. And then I had my first child at 14. Second child 8 days after I turned 16. I did not
Yep.
have that normal childhood. So I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm like, I don't even know what it means to connect to my inner child because I don't remember my inner child.
And it's
So
so important, even as an adult, to connect to still, it's even in the Bible, to still be that childlike, have some of that, because that's where we get to have some fun. That's where your laughter, your joy, that's where your play comes in. You need that. Those are the things that bring joy to you. Because if it's work, 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 right? Achieve, 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 then where is that exploration, that creativity? It's still there, but there's still a part of us, that play, that keep us youthful, that keeps us connecting to, I don't have grandchildren yet, but our grandchildren. I always say grandchildren will, is what keep you young too, right? Because they're joyful, their play. That's what we need sometime, because it can't be all work and no fun. That's not balanced. And we're meant to, and God wants us to enjoy this life.
I
Matter of fact, let me tell you what's powerful. I remember we were in Utah, and when you said go back to when you were a child, what were some of the
yeah.
dreams and ideas? If I do not tell you, that is part of your healing.
Mm,
Because when we deal with trauma, we talk about it impacts your whole body. Trauma gets into your nervous system. So
mm,
that's what keeps you guarded, on edge, not being, you're locked up a little bit, unability to trust, your boundaries are rigid versus being able to be free, right? So when you are almost working out, when you're working out, I love to dance. Anybody that know Robin from when I was a little girl, dancing is my thing. You see me praise dance. The Lord said that is part of what brings you joy. It strengthens you. So when we can tap into that child place, that's where you get some of that strength from. That's kind of what helps to keep you, make you whole. That's where your creativity starts to flourish. I'm in this place even now, when we talk about self-care, right? Even in trauma, you got to look at, how am I taking care of myself?
mm.
And especially
I
when
have to
you,
cut you off. I have
yeah,
to bring you back on. We are out of time. This is too good. I have to bring you back though, because this is a really, really important conversation, you
yeah.
know, and I definitely know there's a lot of women out that need that conversation quickly in like 20 seconds or less. How can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, So You Coach, or on Facebook, it is So You Coach. those are my two main things. And then if you can go to www.soyoucoach.com and you will find out my information there. Thank you so, so much. I
I
enjoyed.
love you. I'm gonna have to have you back because I know it's gonna be a demand. This was very, very good. I so appreciate you. Thank you.